guys, it's Kasara, and today we're going to be talking about the 19 books that I want to read in 2019. So all the books on this list are books that I have wanted to read for a while now. There are a few new ones on the list, but for the most part, most of these books I have wanted to read for a really long time. And they are either books that I already own, or they are books I plan to own in the nearby future. The first book on this list is Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien, and this is a little bit of a two-for because I'm still currently reading The Two Towers. So I've wanted to finish this series for a really long time now. I started the series last year, and I really liked reading The Fellowship of the Rings, the first book in the series, and I'm so far really liking The Two Towers. The problem is, I already know this series. I've seen the movies, so I already know what happens in the series, and I don't particularly like Tolkien's writing style. So it doesn't give me any motivation to pick up the books, even though they're books that I really want to read. So I really want to read these books. I know I'm going to like them, but for those two reasons, they're ones that I hesitate to pick up all the time, but I definitely want to get to these this year. The next book on this list is Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the first novel in the Stormlight Archives. I have wanted to read this series ever since it was announced, but I found out that it was going to be like a 10-novel series, and even though Brandon Sanderson writes really fast, a 10-novel series is still going to be at least 10 years before the entire series is out, and I like binge reading my series, so I've hesitated on picking this up just in case I really like it, which I assume that I'm gonna really like this series and want to read all of the books in the series. But we're 3 novels in now, and I'm missing out. They're huge, so I think it'll take me a while to read this, and I definitely want to get to it this year. The next book on this list was on my January TBR, and I'm still planning on getting to it this month, and that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first novel in the Broken Earth trilogy. This is a winner of the Hugo Award, and it's definitely one that I've been very interested in. This is a fantasy novel set in a post-apocalyptic world, which is just an interesting mashup of genres to me, and there's also an interesting writing style because one of the point of view characters in this book is told in second person point of view, which I've actually really enjoyed reading second person point of view, at least when it's done well. So I'm definitely interested in getting to this, hopefully this month. And if I do get to that one, I will definitely be reading the rest of the trilogy. The next book on this list is The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch. This is a book that I picked up like about 5 years ago. I picked it up with a bunch of other fantasy books, and I read some of the other fantasy books and weren't as impressed with those books as I have been with books that I've read in the past, and I kind of put this one on the wayside because of that. But since then, I've heard a lot of really good things about this book. One thing I think that is really interesting about this book is that it kind of follows the villains of the series rather than heroes, so I think it's just an interesting concept, and I'm excited to get to it. The next book on this list I've actually already started, and that is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. I put together this list before I started this book, so I hadn't really planned on starting this book in January, but I just felt like it and I went for it, and I'm so glad that I did. The Ship of Magic is the first book in the Live Ship Traders trilogy, which is the second trilogy in the Realm of the Elderlings, and I've been wanting to get into the Realm of the Elderlings for a long time. I've read the first book in the first trilogy of the Realm of the Elderlings, which is the Farseer trilogy. I've read Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book in that trilogy, and I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. And from what I heard, this trilogy is also a really good way to get into the series, and that it's better than the first trilogy, and I have to agree. I'm only 60 pages into this book right now, and so far, I really like it. So I'm definitely excited to finish this, and I definitely plan on continuing on with the Realm of the Elderlings. The next book on this list is The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. I don't know anything about the book itself, only that the book is really good. It's a fantasy book set in the Russian wilderness, which just seems very interesting to me, and I've heard this book is really good to read during the winter months. So I'm hoping to get to this next month during the month of February. And also the third book in this trilogy is coming out this year. So if I can finish the first and the second before the third is coming out, then I'll read the third one also. The next book on this list is Grey Sister by Mark Lawrence. I don't have a physical copy of this yet, but I have pre-ordered the mass market paperback for this book. I know it's weird that I pre-ordered a mass market paperback, but just hear me out. I like mass market paperbacks. It's just easier for me to read mass market paperbacks. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I also have the mass market paperback of the first book in the series, Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. So I just want my copies to match each other. I really enjoyed reading Red Sister. It follows a girl named Nona, and she's taken to study to become an assassin nun, basically. It's definitely a very interesting premise. I love the character of Nona. I love all of the characters in the book. World building is very interesting, so I'm definitely excited to continue on with this series. The next book on this list I also don't own a copy of yet, and that is Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. I have actually started reading this one as well. I got the audiobook from my library. I started reading the audiobook, but after a couple of chapters of reading the audiobook, I just went on Amazon and bought the book, so it's coming, and I'm going to have the book in my hands soon. I'm so excited for it. The reason why I decided to read Leviathan Wakes is because it's been compared to Game of Thrones, but it's a sci-fi novel, and I've been really wanting to get into sci-fi. So this is my #1 anticipated read for the sci-fi genre this year, and I'm definitely excited to finally get the book in my hand. Ever since that I even heard of it, I've been wanting to read this book, so I'm definitely excited for it. The next book on this list is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is a book that I had planned to read in January, but I decided to read Leviathan Wakes instead, but I still definitely plan on getting to this year. All I know about this book is that it's a space opera and that it's a very wholesome sci-fi. And like I said, I've been really wanting to get into sci-fi more, and this, I think, would be a great introduction to it for me. So I'm definitely excited for this one as well. The next book on this list is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This is also a sci-fi novel set in a post-apocalyptic world, which is just very interesting to me. Additionally, I've heard that it's told in a very non-chronological fashion, which also piques my interest. I like books that are told in an interesting way, so I'm definitely interested in seeing how well this is done, and I'm excited for this one as well. The next book on this list is one that I keep saying I'm going to read, but just haven't gotten around to it at all, and that is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larrson. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time, and if you've been watching my vlogs, then you'll know, like every vlog, I'm like, this is going to be the next book I pick up, this is going to be the next book I pick up, and then it just doesn't happen. So I need to get to this. I think the reason why is right now I'm just not in a mystery thriller mood. I'm more in a sci-fi fantasy mood, so that's why I've been picking up those books instead. But I definitely plan on getting to this book and the rest of this series this year. The next book on this list is a little different from all the other ones that I mentioned, and that is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I read John Green for the first time last year. I read Looking for Alaska and Turtles All the Way Down, and I really like kind of like the thought process behind his books that I can see, and I've also started kind of following him on YouTube. The Vlogbrothers channel is one of my favorite ones to watch, and this is one of his most successful books. Most people who have read a John Green book, it's The Fault in Our Stars that they've read. And I've never read it, so I really want to see what all the hype is about. So I definitely plan on getting to this one this year too. The next one is also a YA contemporary, and that is Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. This is also on my January TBR, and I still hope to get to it this month. I don't know anything about this book other than the fact that it's really good. I've heard from quite a few booktubers whom I trust that this is a really good book, so I'm definitely excited to get into it. If you couldn't tell, I don't like knowing a whole lot about my books before getting into them, so I don't know how interesting this video is for you guys, but this is another one that I'm really excited for. The next book on this list is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This is a World War II historical fiction. So I've been trying to get more into historical fiction novels. I've read The Nightingale by Kristin and I really liked it. Also earlier this year I read The Book Thief. I also really liked it. So this is another World War II historical fiction that everyone else seems to really love. This is following a blind girl who is 12 years old during Nazi-occupied France. And that's really all I know about it. And it's a Pulitzer Prize winning book, so I'm definitely excited to get into this one. The next book on this list is also historical fiction, and that is The Great Alone by Kristin. Like I mentioned, I read The Nightingale by Kristin. I really enjoyed her writing style, and I think she has a really great way of weaving together the plots and characters of books. I'm definitely interested in seeing how she does that in this book. This book is about a family who decides to move to the Alaskan wilderness after the dad comes home from war. So definitely an interesting concept, and I'm interested in seeing how Kristin does with this book as well. The last 4 books that I really want to get to in 2019 are all classics. The first of these classics is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. This was on my January TBR, but I have since pushed it to my February TBR because one of the unwrapped books that I had in January was Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. It was also a classic, which is very large, and I just don't want to read 2 of them in 1 month. So I plan to get to Pride and Prejudice in February, and it's a classic romance novel, so I feel like it's a good fit for February. Jane Austen is one of those writers that so many people, even people who don't love classics, love reading, so I definitely want to read her most popular book, and I'm very excited to do so. The next classic on this list is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck is an author that I've never read before, but I'm definitely interested in getting into because I've heard so many great things about him. This is a really short book, which is why I decided to read this one first, because I feel like it was a good way to get into Steinbeck, so we'll see how I think about it. On a similar note, the next classic is also an author that I have never read before, and that is Slaughterhouse-Five by Vonnegut. I have never read anything by Vonnegut before, but I've heard so many great things about him, and this is the book that I've heard the most stuff about, even though I don't really know too much of what it's about, but I'm definitely excited to get into it. The last classic on my list is definitely one that is very intimidating, and that is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. I don't have a physical copy of this book yet, but I do have the audiobook of it. I had started the audiobook last year and just wasn't in the right mindset for it. Tolstoy is also an author that I really like. In college, I've read tons of his short stories, and I always really liked them. He's one of my favorite Russian authors, so I'm definitely excited to get into some of his larger works, and War and Peace is the first one that I really want to get to. And I have read like about half of War and Peace on audiobook, but I just felt like I wasn't absorbing the information as much as I wanted to. So I'm getting the physical copy so that I can go between the two. So I'm definitely excited for that. So those are the 19 books that I definitely want to read in 2019. Let me know down below if you have books that you really want to read in 2019, or if any of these books are on your list as well. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching. I post videos every Monday, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!